Hi, it's Brad from Headbangers. Today we've got Jasper and Zach from Beyond Extinction. They're a really interesting band. We talk about how driven they are, how motivated they are. We also talk about the new EP that's going to be launching in March. It's going to feature some very interesting elements that they haven't played around with yet. We're very excited to hear it. And we also talk about some very funny gig stories and who would be least reliant in a zombie apocalypse. But without further ado, here's the episode. And also don't forget, like and subscribe if you like to support us. We're also on Patreon if you want to head over to there. And yeah, also we're also on social media on everything is Headbangers Podcast except for Twitter, which is Headbangers Pod 1. So yeah, hope you liked the episode. Don't forget to leave us a comment of what you thought, and let's begin. Headbangers. Hi, welcome back to the Headbangers Podcast. We're your hosts, Nathan and Brad. Here today we're joined by Jasper and Zach from Beyond Extinction. How are you guys doing to start off with?
Hello, good. Life is good, man. I'm doing well. I'm speaking on behalf of Zach, but he's probably sat just recording demos all day, so he's probably pretty good as well.
Genuinely, that's exactly what I've been doing.
You know each other too well. But yeah, honestly, great to have you guys on. I want to start off with a little icebreaker. What's your funniest gig or tour story that you can recall?
You've asked a good band this question, bro. Can we do one each? Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Zach, you go first, man, because I think I know what yours is going to be already.
Yeah, well, okay. The second one's probably going to pale in comparison with this one, but this is the story. So we're playing in Southampton, and this was the first show that Jasper had ever put on with us headlining. And we had Virgin Witch and Existentialist playing. Up until our set, everything had gone so smoothly. It was perfect. The stage was set for an amazing Beyond Extinction set. And we finished the first song. And then, so I was playing the outro. And I looked over at Jude, the other guitarist, and he was just on the floor. And I thought he was just like messing with his pedal board or something. And I looked back about 10 seconds later, he was still on the floor. I was like, oh no, what's going on here? Turns out he'd stomped on the ground a little bit too hard and just popped his knee straight out.
Oh my God.
First song of the set, and he just popped it straight out. And he was lying on that stage for 7 hours until the ambulance came.
Fucking hell. Okay, jeez.
We sat in that room literally until 5 a.m. And by the time the ambulance showed up, we've been waiting this long. But by the time the ambulance showed up, his knee had popped itself back into place anyway. So like they were like, "Oh, we need to put his knee back in," and they looked at it like, "Your knee's not dislocated anymore." And we've been sat there for 7 hours. Shout out to our photographer, Josh Wagner, for literally, like, we paid him to photograph a set, and he was sat in a venue until 5 a.m. holding Jude's hand, waiting for an ambulance, which is I
hope we got a pay raise for that.
Yeah, for real. It was like the best value for money any photographer has ever done, man. It was, pretty sick. That would have been my choice as well, to be honest, for like a gig story, because I don't really top that. I mean, we've got a few pretty good ones. I mean, I'm going to go like, call it kind of like a recent one. We were on tour with our mates Glower in December. Shout out to those guys, sick band, like hardcore metal, just fucking dope. And we were playing in Bournemouth, and like half of us were like plagued ill, like we were so unwell. But it was our merch guy Riley's 21st, and the venue we were playing at, the Anvil, was open till 5 a.m. and we're like, bro, we've got to go out. We can't like not do it. So we got like absolutely steaming on this night out. It was brilliant. It was like a night to remember. And we got back to this Travelodge room at like 5 a.m, and we actually went to our van, did a bit of drinking, did a bit of, you know, all the sort of stuff that bands do, which I'm not going to specify for PG reasons.
So I'm picking up what you're putting down.
And Niall picked up a bit too much of what was put down, and decided just to walk out of the van and lay in the middle of this car park at Travelodge. And we're like, where's this guy gone? Because it's so dark. And we find him laying there. And we're like, you good, man? He's like, yeah, man, just leave me here. I'll go back to the hotel room. Bear in mind, it was snowing. It was like actually snowing. It was like -3 or something. It was like, yeah, no, I'll find you back in there. And we stood by these bins for like 35 minutes while he basically had to like recover himself, like just mentally, to walk back to a Travelodge room. It was like daylight by the time I went to sleep. We had like 3 hours sleep, had to drive to Bristol the next day. Everyone had caught this illness. It was like the worst. And I've just got this image seared in my mind of Niall laying in a car park at a Travelodge, just like, it's cool, man. I'll meet you in the hotel room. Don't worry about it, bro. I'm all good. Yeah, it was chaos, man. It was a good night. Retrospectively, a good night.
That reminds me of because I had a similar experience with like one of my old mates, Lewis, who used to be in my band. He used to be the bassist, and Brad had a front row seat to this because he was doing some filming for us.
Oh,
But
I remember now. Yeah, it's coming back.
we were doing like we're just doing some demos at Pirate, and Lewis goes to like Aldi, does like a full week shop, and we're there like, that's fucking. I was like, all right, and he's there like gets like we were all drinking in the studio anyway, but he just like one upped us, so he gets like this fucking petrol level like whiskey from Aldi, and like pours it into like this Coke, and he's just drinking it, then just like disappears, like, and he's gone for like maybe an hour, and we're there like, I wonder where Lewis is.
On studio time, by the way.
Yeah, studio time. I'm like, where the fuck's Lewis? And he comes back and he's like, you could tell something had happened because his like beard was all wet, and we're there like, Lewis, are you all right? And he's like, yeah, fine. I was there like, are you sure you're all right? He goes, yeah, fine. I'm like, have you thrown up? And he's like, no. We went into the toilet. It looked like a fucking Picasso painting. Like, it was fucking everywhere. And we were there like, yeah, he definitely fucking threw up. And then afterwards, we find him like just outside, passed out next to the studio, and he would just be like, just leave me here. I was there like, we can't. It's like again, -3. And we were there like, we're not leaving you here. And he like, no, I'm fine. And when our guitarist drove him home, he opened the fucking door to his car to throw up whilst on like a motorway, and was sticking his head out at like 6. The guitarist like, I'm never fucking driving home after that.
He looks like the guy who's like infected in the zombie film but doesn't tell anyone.
Yeah, for real, man. It's like, what's the old guy in Shaun of the Dead? You know, when he gets bitten and no one knows, he's sat in the car, his eyes go white and shit.
Mate, there's footage of it. Brad filmed like the whole thing.
I
Like,
need to find that footage. I've still
he was
got
gonna
it.
do like a vlog, like a studio vlog, and like when we were doing interviews, you could just hear, and like, it was him throwing up from being like fucking pissed. So we were there, like it's remained like, even though he's not in the band, like the funniest like story from like us being a band, being like, oh yeah, that time Lewis got shit faced doing demos. It's just stayed as a segment sort of story.
It's bonding memories, and that's what it is. Like, you know, these are the things that bring us together. Like, you know, I remember the first night, we've just gone on a total tangent talking gig stories and stuff like that, but I'll kill it off this one. The first ever proper writing session we did as a band, Zach was like 4 years old or some shit, and we were at our drummer Niall's house, and like none of us were of that age where we did any regular drinking at all, but we were like home alone. We were like, bro, we've just written like the sickest music ever. For context, it's like not even on streaming platforms anymore because it's so bad. But at the time, we thought it was really good. Wrote this like literally like a song and a half. We're like, yes, fucking let's get annihilated. So Zach and Niall, I drank a lot less than them because I was like, I don't want these guys to die, and you know, no one's there to look after them. Being mature, you know, I'm like, and Zach and Niall got to literally the point of no return. I've never seen people in like such a debilitated state. And Zach is, at the time we were still all at school, and Zach, like, Niall had been sick loads, and then Zach was like, oh, you could tell he's going to go. So this guy gets down the corridor as fast as he can. Like, Niall's house had like this huge long corridor on it, and there's nothing in the corridor the entire way through apart from Niall's school blazer just hanging at the end of it. That's it. And Zach runs the whole way, and then just literally just makes it to the door and like spews this like jet black liquid everywhere. Like, this thing is like just destroyed. And I found him in the morning with like an inch thick layer of this stuff over the entire bathroom floor laying there. And I was like, oh, Zach, like, are you alive, man? And he just sort of grunted. And I was like, yeah, he's cool. I'll leave him there. It was bad. Yeah, exactly. He was still breathing. Like, it was all good.
It is
amazing.
They are normally like really, really good bonding experience. Like, one thing I wanted to ask you, I saw obviously on your Instagram that one of your tracks got featured on Kerrang Radio. What was that sort of like seeing that? Because I know that it's probably like on the bucket list of every like metal band in the UK, really. So what was it like seeing your track on Kerrang Radio and like knowing people got to listen it through there?
It's pretty mad, isn't it? I mean, so the first time it happened was God Complex, which is the first single of our last EP, and that was like, we'd basically never had any sort of press coverage by then, and so that was mad for us. That was really, really sick. And then when Eyes of God got on it, that was super cool as well, because we've been waiting to put this music out for so long. And it's just nice when you get that validation, because we're like, man, we've sat on it for ages, you know. And you don't want to release it and it kind of flop because you think, fuck, what were we waiting for this whole time? Am I all right to swear? Sorry, I didn't even ask that question.
Of course,
Yeah, mate.
I mean, we're too deep now. If not, anyway, the podcast
Yeah.
cancelled. If not,
We've had quite a few people ask that, and we're like, you can do whatever you want. Like,
nice one,
podcast.
sweet,
It's
awesome,
like-
good stuff. I like the liberal approach to it all, sweet. But yeah, man, like getting on Kerrang's mega. That was just like, seeing when you listen to the radio show, like you stay up and you listen to it and like you hear a hit. Like I've heard that song so many times from demo form all the way through to release, but it never sounds as good as it does when you listen to it on Kerrang. I mean, like it's just as you'd expect. It's just so sick, man. And it's like to be appreciated by anyone is really like humbling, but to have it come from someone like Alex Baker, who's like, that guy, he knows the metal scene and the alternative scene in England, and he said some really nice things. Like he was just sort of like every time he played it, he was just kind of laughing about how heavy it was, and I love that because that's the sort of reaction we wanted. Is just like we just make silly heavy music, and he clearly got it for what it was, and it's just like exactly as you wanted the reception to be, really.
Absolutely. I think it's good that not only that he got played on Kerrang, but he also like understands it and he compliments it at the same time. So no, I can imagine that was like very refreshing and shows like hard work paying off as well.
Yeah, for sure, man, for sure.
I want to ask as well, because I know that I don't know if you're still doing it, but you're a vocal coach, aren't you, Jasper?
Yes, man. Yeah.
I actually had one lesson from you.
You did. You did ages ago, yonks ago, man.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I wanted to ask, like, as a vocal coach, what are the 3 mistakes that you think like young like vocal coaches make? They first get into it. Like, what's the 3 things that they get wrong? Like most of the time.
young vocalists or people that are new to like doing vocals and stuff.
Yeah, people just like fresh to the vocal scene. What are they doing wrong?
Number 1 is listening to people that have been doing it for 15 years and trying to sound like that straight away. That's the first thing, because you can't go listening to like crazy music which has been decades in the making and then be like, yeah, I'm going to try this for like a week and get there, because it just kills your like own personal momentum with it. I'd say second one would be like waiting until you've got it perfect to start doing anything. Like you have to get that midpoint where you don't want to expect things too early and try and be crazy too early, but also let yourself learn by doing it. Like when I started doing it, I was fucking god awful. I was terrible. I can't believe anyone came to listen to us like the first year and a half of us playing any shows at all, to be honest. You're like stupid people, right? Don't know why I wasted their time on that, but I had to do that to learn everything, because you learn by experience. Like, I've always been a believer, like you get the best outcome when you just practice stuff by doing it. So, people get nervous and understandably about, not wanting to look like a dick and doing it wrong, but get started. But, if you can play shows, if you can practice with your band, doesn't matter if you're not perfect, like no one is to begin with. Just get into it. And then I'd say third would be trying to emulate people. So obviously kind of linked to what I said at the start, people expecting to hit the levels of like a crazy good vocalist immediately. But also like when you're learning, a lot of people say to me, yeah, I want to sound like this guy. I want to sound like that guy. I want to sound like she does, whatever. And it's like, that's great. And it's good to take influence, but everyone's voice sounds like very individual. And like, I'm really sick of telling people like, you don't sound bad. You just don't sound like that person. And it's just like, there's so much to it. Like you look at metal vocals as a whole anyway, the fact that anyone listens to them, most people would say, why would anyone listen to that? It sounds terrible. Like if that's what those people are saying, but like if you show the average person a Behemoth song, they'd be like, that's fucking horrible sounding. Why do anyone listen to that? And then you go to Bloodstock and there's 20,000 people that are loving it. And it's like the same with anything. You can listen to your own vocals and be like, oh man, this doesn't sound like so-and-so. It doesn't sound like who I want it to be. It's like, don't worry about it. Sound like you. And there'll be people out there to listen to it. They'll go, yeah, that's pretty good. And you can improve and you can change, but just don't ever try and emulate something and think you're failing if you're not hitting exactly what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's important what you said about like, try not to emulate other people. Obviously like I only did like a tiny bit of vocal lessons. I did like one lesson with you. I did like a few like ages ago before COVID, but it was just for like normal singing. I can't remember what he said, but he said something about if you try and like emulate somebody's voice, you can never really get the true projection because it's not your own voice. Like you can only make your own voice like as leveled as it should be. Obviously, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about because I don't know.
No, you're spot on, man. No, exactly. Yeah. You've got to just the way to look at it is like if you constantly spend your whole life trying to be something else or sound like something else, whatever it is, you're never going to actually hit your true full potential because you're never going to try and explore it. It's like with guitarists or whatever like that. If you only ever play one band song, so if you just do covers of Lamb of God, you can be really, really cool at that and really sick at that, but you could be an insanely good blues guitarist and never know about it. And it's the same with vocals. It's like you can want to sound like Will Ramos or whatever as much as you want to, and insane vocalists and absolutely no slight to them, but give a go sounding like yourself. Give yourself yourself the time to make your own voice and stuff, and you're going to find that you get more out of yourself for doing that, I think.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Oh
fully
yeah. I
agree.
remember he even got like a kitchen lesson from me.
Oh yeah.
on vocals. I talked about it before, but essentially it just ended in Brad making barking noises because at the time I find it really hard to describe to people like how to do it.
Yeah.
Like because it's the only I find it's the only instrument you can't go on YouTube and just go how to do this. It's like whereas if you know like with guitar, it's like how do you play this? Oh, it's just like this, that, and the you know you can tell them the notes and what to do, but you with vocals it's like I don't know, it's just like happening somewhere in here. And like what comes out just comes out.
Yeah, man, for sure. Zach does like back-ends for the band, and it's always weird as well because like we have totally different, like we do different styles of vocal. Like he's a fry screamer and I do full scored, and like the sound is very, very different. And it's often like, you know, sometimes I think, oh man, like we should like sit down and do some chatting about stuff and it sounds like, but it's like realistically people have got their own sounding voices, and like as you say, it's very hard to tell someone, coming from the vocal coach here, fucking really not setting myself very well, but it's very hard to tell someone what is going on. Like, you know, if you, like you say, if you teach someone to play guitar, or you teach someone to like play football, whatever like that, you can show someone a leg kicking a ball and you can show them videos of stuff happening, and it's very controllable. And vocals are like totally different. Like, you know, I feel like Zach and I have had so many conversations about vocals and things before and stuff like that, and I don't think once ever we've actually ever tried to do something to change it, because realistically it's like at the end of the day, if you can do what you're doing and you're fine with it and it sounds good on stage, which I mean I assume it does. I've not actually heard us play live from an audience point of view, surprisingly, but you know, like why bother trying to funk it all up when you can just stick with what you got? I think sometimes it's good to do.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I think like
agree.
so many people just be like, yeah, but I want to be this person. I want to sound like it. Just doesn't work like that. I remember when I first started, I wanted to sound like fucking CJ from Nayart.
Yeah,
and like I found
so did everyone though.
Mate, I found it still haunts my vocals now, because then I realized I'm like, no, I want to sound like me. And like every fucking time I'll do like vocals, I'll show someone, they'll go, sounds like CJ from my art. That I'm like, fuck's sake.
You see his face everywhere.
It's like every time I'm like, it's like I was there like, right, re-record it. I've fucking got to redo it.
Fuck off, CJ.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of my head.
Obviously, it's a good compliment, but it's also like I've been trying not to go for that style of vocals. Like I've been trying to like work on my own. And when someone just been like, oh, I'm finally at this point where I feel like I sound like me, and it's like, sounds like CJ from my art. I'm like, fuck's sake.
Nice one, man. No, you know what? Like it's like Brad said. You know, if there's going to be someone comparing to someone, being compared to CJ from my art isn't a bad one to be. It's better than being like
Definitely.
the one that I've got before is like, oh man, you sound like one of the Muppets. I'm like, do I? Sick. Thanks for that, man. That's not condescending at all. Like, I appreciate it a lot. Unbelievable. Man.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask as well, because I think one thing that's really notable about you guys is like your marketing game and your graphics design skills are really immense. I think like the way that you market yourself is amazing. Like, do you put like a lot of thought into that when you deploy whatever you post, or is it something that you just naturally just come together and it just happens?
See, I feel like I'm just stealing all of the thunder here, because I do all that as well. Like, well, I could just make up it like, nah, Zach does all of that stuff, man. Why don't you talk about it? But yeah, I do all the graphic stuff and things. Like I just started a new job, and that's like a part of that job as well. I've been doing it for ages. It's like kind of I think as a band as well, and it's probably a good way to like tie Zach into the chat, is like we're very keen on the kind of, if you can do without outsourcing something and you can learn it yourself, to do it that way. So, you know, I started doing the graphics when we had our first ever show when we were like 16 years old, and made some shit poster on Snapchat. And that autonomy and self kind of, you know, drive with it has led to me learning how to use like Photoshop and all that sort of shit now. And so I do all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of planning into it. Zach will know, because I'm the one that's fucking spam messaging him like, make sure you post this, make sure you do this. I read all this kind of stuff. But yeah, we try and put like a good amount of plan into it, I'd say. And I think we're all at the level now as well, where like Zach can speak to this, that I think we're all kind of aware of what it takes consistency wise and like branding wise to stay professional.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think one thing that comes into that is that we're all like, first, before we're musicians, we're all music fans. Like, so we see what other bands are doing in terms of like social media. So that's, you know, I think like the one thing that is good with our social media presence, like the one thing that ties it all together is that we're all so like cohesive with it, and we all kind of follow the same plan. Whereas you see some bands that have just like god awful social media presence, and it's just like you see it and you're like no, stop. And it's having that kind of like critical view towards it that we've all got, I think helps it a lot.
Yeah, I think that's why I look at you guys. I'm like, you're doing everything right. Like, it's satisfying to see because like so many bands, even bands that you wouldn't expect, like that, quite legacy bands. Like the social media game is just not good. But I think like marketing's so important. Obviously, I do my main job is marketing. So like when I see it, I'm like, yeah, you got it. It's pretty sick. Yeah.
Nice, man. I'm glad you said that because that's literally that's half of the job that I just started as in marketing. So I'm glad that another professional has told me what I'm doing is right, because otherwise I'm going to be getting sacked pretty soon. So it's good to get that validation in there. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think like it is so important to keep up with that stuff because like I've seen so many bands where it's like these guys sound great, but their social media is like presence is just dog shit. But it's there like and then like you know like there'll be a good friends where it's like why is it? It's not getting any traction. I'm like, it's because you're not throwing it out there to get traction. You're just hoping that someone's gonna find it. Like you're not really pushing it. And I think that's where a lot of people sort of go wrong. I always used to think I always say now, like, if you're in a band, you're not just making music. You're also like a multimedia distribution company, essentially.
Yeah,
it's like there's videos, fucking graphics, there's everything that you've got to push out and be good at as well.
Definitely. And it kind of sucks in a way. It's like, I want to just be able to do the live shows and stuff like that. And that would be really cool if I could just live my life only doing that, rock up, play a gig, go home and it's done. But like you say, in this day and age, if you want to make it, you have to be savvy with all the other aspects of it. And, we're all learning that stuff as well. And I think we're like a really cohesive unit as a band. Like I'm quite keen on that, the marketing side of stuff, the graphic side of stuff, all these sort of things, a lot of planning. Zach is way more adept with using kind of like demoing stuff, DAWs, getting this kind of stuff done on like a production of the music basis. And it's not very hard compared to me, seeing as I literally opened like Reaper once and had a breakdown. So we're not looking at very high kind of standards here, but like Zach's got that. Jude's really good with all like the kind of stuff with our van and things and getting that all sorted, the tax, the grown-up stuff, making sure we're all above board on that. Niall's just a sick fucking drummer and he's just good enough at that and probably the best musician in this band, to the point that we don't need him to do anything else because he sort of carries us in that way. Like when we started, we were so bad, but Niall was so good. And it's like, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be a band. So he's kind of got a get off free card. And also, him and Zach, like you guys both do crewing, so that side of stuff and live shows is covered. Like as a unit, I think we stick pretty well. I mean, unless you disagree, Zach, which you might just say, "Nah, fuck you, you're wrong."
No, I mean you're right. I think it's definitely a good kind of mix of skills that we've got that means we don't have to outsource as much as a lot of other bands do. And we're kind of just like on the same wavelength about what we all can do and what we all kind of bring to the table other than the instrument that we play. Yeah,
I respect that a lot, to be honest. I think it is like a little company, everyone's got their own little sections and it all helps to make like the company grow. But yeah, it's completely important, because I think if you've got like a band and not everyone's pulling the weight, and I think it brings the whole thing down. So the fact that you've all got not only the instruments that you play, but you've all got set roles as well. It's super good. It reminds me of like when we were both speaking to Malevolence, like they do everything themselves, like they don't outsource for anything, and they're fucking successful as hell now. So
I'll take that comparison very happily, bro. I'll take the Malevolence comparison any day of the week. Yeah.
No, you guys have got the work ethic, and I think that's like the main thing.
Thank you, man. I mean, Zach, what's your Facebook description again? Like, speaking of calling it a business, or is it your Twitter? Your like role is like, or your job is like CEO of Riff Distribution or some shit.
It's some shit like that.
That is fucking sick.
Even like, Couple Icon, they do that as well. Like they do it to like an insane standard as well. Hey, on all the tours, I literally saw this on another podcast today. So on all the tours, they do all their own driving, they do all their own merch, and it's just ridiculous. Like they did I think it was Warped Tour, which was like 6 weeks, doing their own driving and merch, where they'd be doing like 12-hour drives.
That's punishment, man.
Yeah. And the guy who does the podcast is like the guitarist for Harm's Way, and he said every single show you'd see Couple Icon just like exiting the venue, like with all the merch that they've just sold, like just tried selling, and like they're getting in the van to do a 12-hour drive.
Yeah, man.
Like it's fucking ridiculous. Like
It's a grind, man. It is a grind. Like I've been lucky to I work with Harbinger doing like merch managing for them a lot, and they've got a crazy good merch setup. So their ability to create really in demand merch and to have such a great range allows them to and also the level that they are. You know, they're getting to become a really well established band in the UK and have been for a while. And they, because of that work that they've done, they have the ability to like hire people like me to merch manage for them. But it is like if you haven't got that set up and or necessarily, you know, as well established of like a merchandising kind of like, I don't know, operation as bands like they do, it's financially just like hemorrhaging to spend money on crew, whether it be like stage techs or merch managers and things like that. So it is like a genuinely, for some bands, the only viable way is to do it fully DIY, which is what we do. I mean, we take friends out to merch manage. Like I make Riley, shout out to him, he does it sometimes for us, and you know, our girlfriends do it at shows sometimes and things like. Everyone kind of chips in and stuff, which is great. But on a kind of touring level, like we try and keep costs to an absolute minimum. And you know, Jude will tell you about the drives. It's not quite 12 hours for Jude, but he does 3.5 hour drives, and that's enough for him. So it's a bit of a trek, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's as well, the amount of money you can save from just doing that. Like you don't have to pay like someone to do merch for you. Don't have to do. If you do everything yourself, the amount of money you actually get from doing that gig goes a lot longer of a way. So I think it is like when you. Like if you get to sort of that size where you're like a giant band, and it's like money's no object, you know. Yeah, sure. But for a lot of bands, I think like it's just hemorrhaging money if you're just going, oh well, we'll pay someone to do it. It's like nah, dude.
Yeah, for sure, man. It's a hard balance to get, but you know, hopefully we'll be at the level at some point where, because of doing it now and because of putting the work in now and doing the grind now and not spending the money where you don't have to now, you can then afford to later down the line, which is the way that I think is the best way to do it. I mean, there's a lot of bands that we see, and I mean, Zach crews for bands and stuff like that, so he'll know as well. It's like there's a lot of outgoing costs for bands, and being able to limit them to only the necessities is super important. Like, you know, doing crews for, I put a festival on each year called Marine Metal, like a charity festival, and Zach crewed for that with a load of other really sick crew members last year. And that was like, we needed those people there. They were kind enough to do it like voluntarily for their own time, because it's like a charity event, which is awesome of them. They were absolutely sick, and they made the day go so much better. Like that's a necessary cost for us at this stage. We don't need to bring 3-4 crew members on tour because there's no financial way that's viable, and also we ain't got that much equipment either, so it kind of works out. But balancing those costs and stuff at this kind of early stage is important. Obviously, saying this, like, please hire Zach. Make sure you hire him. He's
I was
going to
say, this is like the worst ad for my services.
We'll just ask people to skip like that certain section of the podcast. Just like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I did merch for like a few of my mates' bands, and like that, you know, respect to any band that does their own merch, because that was like a tough day. Especially,
did you deal with many punishers, man? You know about? Is that what you use the word punisher as well? Right? That's like kind of the universal term for that. You bro, we there are a few guys that I've met before. I won't drop places in case people are listening that get upset by it, but there are places that we have visited on tours where like the Punisher has been there, and they fucking just destroy your will to live, man. It's like, buy a t-shirt and have a chat. Please don't ask me to fucking listen to your life story about why your mum's dog's fucking got a gammy leg. Like, I don't care.
Well, mate, what made it more complicated was like, because I had no intention of doing the merch for like more than 10 minutes. My mate went, can you watch the merch for like 10 minutes whilst I go outside? Sound. Get to the merch table. Card machine's gone because he's taking it with him. Change is gone because he's taking it with him. So I'm sat there being like, and people coming over, I'm like, have you got exactly £15 in cash? No. You can't have a t-shirt then. Why? The guitarist is fucked off with everything I need to be able to sell you the t-shirt. So yeah, unless you've got exactly 15 quid, mate, I can't do anything. And I was like making notes on my hand, like about the amount of people that I've had to turn away. I was like, see, if you give me the fucking card machine, you'd have got this many people buying a t-shirt. Honestly, I was fuming. I was just sat there like going, I had the same conversation like 90 times, like, yeah. Sorry, mate. It's just so awkward.
Hey, but there's like us at Blondie's, man. Like we did this headline show at Blondie's in London to like start this year, and it was brilliant. Like awesome show. This room was like 2 capacity. It was fucking tiny, man. Like average living room is like bigger than this venue floor space was. So it was like carnage. And the show finished, and I do most of our merch sort of stuff. And so I went to the merch stand to try and sell shirts, and literally like getting through to like 10 minutes. It was like so difficult, just like squeezing through people. And I was like, I want to go outside, take a break, whatever like that, and took the card machine with me in my bag. And then every time someone needed to buy a shirt, you had to fight your way through. Like basically, it was like, imagine putting like 70 people in a cupboard, and it was like go from one side to the other. It was basically just that. So I'm there like with this card reader, it's got like 1 bar of battery left. Like, I've got to get this to the other side of this room for whoever's doing the merch. Or like I remember Jude's a very tall, shouty kind of guy. So he stood on one end of the venue, and Zach will be able to appreciate how abrasive this was. Just going, Jasper, card machine, card. And I'm trying to fight my way through walls of people with this shitty little side in my hand just to get to the end of it. And I get there, and they're like, oh no, I've got cash. I'm like, oh, fucking you are joking, man. Like breaking my brain. But yeah, I feel you on that one, man. It's a great job to do, and it's fun. I love doing it. Like especially with Harbinger, man. Those guys are legends, and it's always so fun. But it is not as easy rock and roll as I think some people probably assume it is.
Oh yeah, if a band ever asks,
Absolutely.
I'll never say no.
Yeah.
Like that experience, I was just sat like, this is bullshit. I was like, it's like you could have just give me a card, just like a couple bits of change. Like would have made the world. But yeah, I'd never say no if anyone ever asked me to do it again, because it was fun. One thing I wanted to ask you as well, you've got your new EP coming out, the Wretched EP. It's in March, isn't it? It's coming out. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, March 17th.
So what was like the writing process for that EP like, and how did it sort of differ from your previous like sort of releases?
It was pretty much just like a complete step up from the writing process from the last EP, because for the writing sessions for the last EP, I was doing my A-levels at the time, so I couldn't really like fully contribute to it, and it was also during lockdown. Well, I think it was during like the start of the lockdowns, and so it was a very kind of difficult thing to navigate. But then by the time we started writing for this EP, and we started doing that a very, very long time ago, like probably October 2021, something like that we started properly writing. And we just kind of, I think we really found the process that works for us. So a lot of the time it would be me and Niall would sit and kind of write out structures and write out the kind of skeleton of the song, because that's what we kind of did best. And I'd have like riffs and stuff to put in, and then me and Jude would meet up and fill in the gaps wherever they might be. And then Jasper would be kind of
doing nothing, literally not contributing it anywhere at all, basically.
Well, you'd be like obviously writing the lyrics, but then also a kind of, because obviously Jasper isn't a musician in the sense of plays guitar or drums.
Fuck you,
man. I'm not a musician.
You're not a real musician, man.
But I'm the same, mate. I can't do shit all. Like
yeah.
I can turn up, shout for a bit, and then fuck off.
Yeah.
It's always good to have someone that kind of, because it's the closest we have to like a listener's ears, because you're not listening to it in terms of how you play it on the guitar or how you play it on the drums. You're just listening to it as a song. So as a kind of final quality control before we decide, okay, that's the song, it was a good like measure to just have literally just Jasper listening to it and thinking, does it flow as a song? Because it's easy as a guitarist to sit and get kind of wrapped up in all the riffs and all this whatever and not think in terms of the whole picture. But I think with that process that we mostly stuck to and are sticking to in future, it just made things go a lot more smoothly than they did in the past. And it just meant the whole EP has a way more cohesive sound than the last one, at least in my opinion. So I think it was just a kind of big step up, and we just did it a little bit more professionally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I really like the sound of the new single. I wanted to ask you, like, so you've got the EP, The Fatal Flaws of Mankind. I feel like you guys have got this sort of futuristic deathcore sound, but it's also got like some real bounce to it. Like it's got the groove. Like I was like listening to it on the way to work this morning. I was like, I could get down to this. Like, it's really interesting. Like, how did you like land on that sound? And like, obviously the new EP's on the horizon. Like, how does it differ from that? Do you think there's like a lot of like new elements thrown in as well?
I mean, for the first EP, I think that sound kind of came about just because at the time we were listening to quite different stuff from each other. Like me and Jasper were listening to like a lot of deathcore, and then Jude was more in the kind of proggy metalcore side of things, and it just kind of came together in a way where it was like heavy but still had that bounce. But I think with the new EP, it's a lot less kind of bouncy, and it has a lot less of the like metalcore, the kind of like new metalcore influence we had in the last one, but it still has that like groove, because regardless, like we all still listen to like different music, but the kind of underlying thing that's in all of it is just like groove. And that's just a big part of it. And it's a lot heavier, the new EP. Like
it's big riffs, man. That's the thing. I think we switched
bigger.
out a lot of the bounce for just big riffs, like
it's apocalyptic.
Yeah, man. The title track, Nothing More Wretched, has got this like minute and a half long riff at the end of it, which is I remember the first time like hearing it kind of like remotely mixed, like actually just melted my brain. It was just like kind of I'm really into Meshuggah, but mainly because of the kind of like just ignorant heaviness of it, same as like Black Tongue, that sort of stuff, where it's like you get that drop tuning and the constant repetition of riffs and things. I think it's just really like there's a cerebral effect to it. So I think this EP, we definitely made like a conscious effort to stick riffs in that stood for themselves, just in terms of their like brute force, and we didn't cut them, we didn't make them little features. Like they're a real prominent part of the music. Like the final track on the EP has got this huge long guitar intro basically, and it's just like a real basic kind of riff. Really, it's not massively technical, it's kind of a little bit probably, maybe, I don't really know, but it just is relentless and hits and keeps going, and that's kind of what we've gone for with it. It's just like this kind of a, like you say, the groove, big riff sort of sound. And when it comes through like a double drop D tune guitar or whatever it is like apocalypse music. It's just like, it's stupidly heavy.
Yeah, it's what I enjoy actually about you guys. Like, you let a riff stay around a bit longer. Like, if you've made a fucking sick riff, then why not let it just, keep on for a few more?
Yes, man.
Yeah, literally. Because I can't say how many times I listen to a band, I'm like, oh my God, this fucking riff. And I was like, oh, it's gone. Like,
yeah, I always skip
bring
back.
It back.
I always go through songs and I'm always like, okay, 17 seconds and back 17 seconds constantly, because I'm like, oh, that riff's so sick. Why wasn't it there for like 2 more repeats? I mean, it makes a writing process so much easier, because if you're trying to make like a 4.5 minute song and a minute and a half of it is the same riff, you're sorted, man. Like, it's so much easier to do. So yeah, no, I'm definitely on the same boat as you, man. Spot on there.
Yeah, it's like you'll create a riff and then you'll sort of like build around it. So like, it's like a tree, and then the branches come out of it. It becomes like more and more interesting as it goes along. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting way to write music. So I'm excited to hear the new EP, to be honest.
Sweet, man. Nice one.
Oh yeah, Tribal Gaze did that with like riffage.
Yeah,
like, they were full of fat riffs that just stayed the right amount of time. Like the song With This Creature I Shall Return, right? The fucking breakdown riff in that track, it's perfect. And I'm so happy because they like didn't put any vocals over it. They let that one riff proper shine through, and I was there like, this is amazing. And it's so much I'd skip back the song just that one section like 9
It's like a metal version of a slow cooker, you know what I mean? Let it simmer.
Yeah, nice. That is such a good description, man.
I love that.
Fuck yeah, bro. That's
going
straight in our press kit, like the metal equivalent of slow cooked beef or some shit. Nice.
Please do. That'd be fucking amazing.
Fuck yeah, man.
Mate, I think too many people try to overcomplicate it. Like, honestly, like everyone's like, it needs to have a section here, a section there, and before you know it, you've got like a 4-minute track that sounds like 5 different songs.
Yeah,
it's saying like, wait, nah. If you condense it and you just look back and go, but does it all work together? And is it still like flowing? Then I feel like you get into a better place with writing. It's something I genuinely regret not doing more until like now. Where it's like, I remember first ever track I ever put out, we were like demoed it, and in the studio 90% of that came out, got cut out, and I wrote lyrics for that demo, and I'm like, I'm sat there just like, I've got no lyrics for this, and like just panicking, like, and after that, I learned like you need to just, if it's good and it's only predominantly made of like maybe a couple riffs, what's the harm? Do you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to have just mad shit constantly.
I mean, that when we did a lot of our old songs, like the old EP and a couple of singles after that, one of the main things that made us, like, at least for me, from a songwriting perspective, like change things up, was when our producer, Matt Williams, shout out to Max, he's sick. He just said to us, like, a lot of this is just like riff soup. Like, it's just a riff and then a riff and then a riff. And it's like, there's nothing tying them together. It just sounds like, it sounds like you've just recorded loads of riffs on your phone and put them together, which was pretty much the writing process. So that kind of advice from him really kind of made us rethink how we do it, put a lot more thought into just making a song actually good. So that's why like Gravedigger, like literally half of that song is just one riff pretty much. So it's like we don't
and it's better than the other half of the song as well, which is why it all works. Is that like there's so much of the EP is like it's it's like 6 tracks, and I enjoy probably about 3 minutes of it just so much more than the rest of it. Not because the rest of it's shit, but because it's 3 minutes of just pure like unadulterated riff central. And no, it's kind of, it's one of those things I think where deathcore and the subgenre fit, and I feel like we're quite good because we straddle a lot of different sounds, especially with a new EP. I feel like it kind of ticks boxes in different areas. But I think one of the main things for me is like the deathcore subgenre, which I guess is where it would fit in the most, is very saturated, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because it's like from a listener's point of view, tons of really sick bands. But like you're totally right in saying that part of the response some bands have to try and break through the fact there's so many bands is got to make it as complex as we can and add new crazy ideas and things. And it pays off sometimes, and it does sound really sick in most cases when you try new things. But there is something to be said, I think. And I think a lot of people that like our band like us because we just do riffs that we think sound cool. And that's the main thing. Like, we were asked in an interview recently about kind of what our band stands for. And the main thing for me is just like, we just want to make heavy, big riffs that people enjoy. People just go, oh, that's fucking dirty. Yeah, that sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what we're going for. We're not here to kind of like try and revolutionize the genre. We just want to make songs that people listen to and they leave gigs and go, they were incredibly heavy. And that's kind of the end game for us, I guess.
I mean, that is what the listeners want, isn't it? Like, I mean, people and fans of extreme metal, on extreme hardcore, whatever, like, we all like the same thing. We just want a big fucking chunky riff and enjoy it. Like, it doesn't have to be overly complicated. It's just like, it's kind of listening to what the people want to hear, and that's exactly it. I have heard people call you guys like the future of deathcore. I wanted to know if you've heard that and what you think about it.
Yeah, pretty cool. I mean, it's one of those sort of things where it's like,
no big deal.
Yeah. Well, the thing is for me is it's like and I think that as a whole, as a band, we're all kind of like this. Is like if something good happens or like we get good feedback, we're like, sick. Let's get it again. Let's do it again. Like, we've got a very kind of driven mindset. It's like Zach's writing process is exactly the same as that. This guy has written like 15 songs in the past like 3 weeks, basically, because he writes one, he goes, oh, that sounds sick. And then it's like the next time I go to his house, he's got like an entire album written of just other stuff. And it's like that whole mindset is just drives our band of just like, there is never, it's not like it's never enough, but there's never a reason, in our opinion, to kind of rest on laurels. And like, to be totally clear, absolute love and massive props to everyone who shows us time and attention and says things like that, because it's really like, it's humbling. And the fact people give us the time of day when there's so many sick bands out there, I think is just like a really, it's a privilege from our point of view. If people think that we are the future of deathcore, if people are going to say things like that, then I ain't going to tell them to stop saying those things, because it's very good. But I don't think we do it for those reasons. We just do it because we love doing it, and we're just super stoked that people also enjoy it. I mean, obviously there is a level of, we want to get a level of success out of this, not in like a money and fame sort of way, but like, we want to keep doing this for a long time, and we want people to enjoy it. And part of that involves having to grow as a band. So when you get positive press, that's a big part of it. But we we want to make our riffs and put them in front of as many people as you can do and go, you want more of this? And if they say yes and they say great things, then they can. If they don't, they can fuck off. And it makes very, very little difference to us, really. We're going to keep doing it and just keep trying to make people happy anyway.
Oh yeah, and I think it's great to have that mentality of going, we want this again, because I find that so many people they'll get like great feedback and they'll just rest on that. Like,
that's
well, don't want to brag, but in 2009, I mean, they'll be like, we were named this by this magazine. It's like, yeah, okay, mate. And it's like a lot of them just go, that's the peak, and then like they'll just stop there. But it's great that you guys have the hunger to go, I want people to say that again. I want people. I want more of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we talked about your music. I want to ask about your hobbies and interests. So, what do you do in your spare time when you're not creating sick riffs and laying down some sick vocals? What are you doing?
I mean, there's not a lot of time where I'm not like creating sick riffs and shit. Like,
I mean, if you're creating albums in a day, then I can imagine you don't have much spare time to do anything else.
Yeah, I mean, like literally all I do pretty much is just like listen to music and make music. Like I've got a kind of side project thing I'm working on right now. It's a bit different from Beyond Extinction. It's a bit more like from the other side of my music taste, which is like grindcore and hardcore and stuff like that. And I've just been doing that because I've not really got anything else to do. So
you've got to clarify that like he doesn't just sit in like a room doing nothing. Like he's also a student and does crew work and shit. Like he doesn't like wake up.
I do have a job.
Photosynthesize and write riffs and then sleep. Like there is other aspects to his life. Unless actually you do that and you've just been lying to this band for years.
Sleeps with his guitar.
I mean, right now it's pretty much is that because I've not worked for ages. Uni's not starting up again. All I've been doing is songwriting. So that's my free
just
time.
Drowning in the riffs, bro. He is like neck deep in riffs, and he's making more, man. I mean, I don't have any. I mean, I do have the ability to record vocals at home and demo at home, but I haven't had time to do that really. So spare time wise, I'm a big football fan. Like I'm always off of football. I'm a sufferer of Chelmsford City FC, who are a non-league football team, and I've been following them since I was like a kid. And we are terrible. We never get promoted. I travel to the ends of the country, and I was in Ebbsfleet on like last Tuesday. It was -2 degrees. We lost 2-0, had one shot on target the whole game, cost me about 60 quid to get there and back. It was just like a horrible experience, and I'll be doing it all over again next week because for some reason I've just decided that's how I spend my spare time. My girlfriend lives in Southampton, so I'm down visiting there. I went uni there for 3 years, so I'm kind of back and forth every now and again seeing mates and seeing my girlfriend. I've just started a new job. I'm working for a homelessness charity in London, so I'm doing some fundraising and marketing for them, which is sick. Like I did a politics degree at uni and swiftly realized that there is not a single way you could pay me to work with a politician ever, because they're just the worst people in the entire world. So I thought I wanted to put it to use in like a good way. So I'm doing work with people suffering from homelessness, and it's just like I had like my first proper day in the office and stuff today, and it's like a great environment to be around. And it's nice as well because having something very different to what you do for the music stuff means that the music stuff always stays exciting. I found like when I got out of uni and I was kind of waiting to find a career role, and all I was thinking about was band stuff, I ended up disliking it more than I ever had done, because when all you think about is that, you just think, why aren't we doing this better? Why aren't we improving in this way? We were waiting to release music and it was frustrating. And you get to the point where you start realizing, oh man, I'm spending so much time thinking about the thing that I love, I'm starting to hate it. And it's really good to have like a mix in your life. So Zach needs to fucking go back to uni and start studying before he hates this music soon. But yeah, we keep it kind of varied. Like, it's good to have a few kind of cards in your deck, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like I completely agree with you. When you only like focus on the thing that you're most passionate about, whether it's like a hobby or something that you want to take further, like the more you just put pressure on yourself to like do this and do this, like the more you do begin to hate it. Like when I left uni, I did like digital media, so I knew that I wanted to do something creative. But I was like all through that summer, I like ruined my summer because I was like, I need to get this. Yeah. And I just said, fuck it, I'm just gonna get a different kind of job. Did like insurance for like 3 years, and that really made me love creative stuff because I fucking hate insurance.
But you need to have that, don't you, man? You need to have that like duality of like, it's very similar to if you don't gig for a long time, because like we'll do tours and stuff, and we get to the end of the tour, and I'm like, bro, I cannot wait to never play a show ever again. I just want to sleep the whole time. And then you wait 2 weeks, and you're like, man, I miss it so much. And it's just like that, man. Like we had this show in January at Blondie's, and it was great. And it was like that's exactly how we wanted to start the year, because we had a tour in December with Glower. It was brilliant, had a sick time, but it was very knackering. Like it took a lot out of us. It was freezing cold. We were already ill. Like it was, and then this January show, we had like a whole Christmas off. The band chilled for a bit. And then we just hit the ground running in January, did this one show, had a single release. And it's just like exactly what we needed to happen, I think, to make us like hungry to gig again. We're touring in 2 weeks' time. I'm not sure when this will be out, but we're touring in 2 weeks' time with Winter Hotel, or a week and a bit's time with Winter Hotel. Doing some shows, Ipswich, Derby, Nottingham. So just a little weekend with them. Those guys are sick. That's gonna be fun. And then the big one is we've got our release tour for Nothing More Wretched in March. So that's 16th, 17th, 18th, 23rd, 24th, 25th. We've got Digora come along with that, and Semperus, and that's going to be just fucking sick. So you have to do the boring shit and the life shit. Well, it's not always boring, but you have to do the life shit to appreciate the good gigs. And we've got a lot of good gigs coming. So it's gonna be fun, man.
Oh yeah, it's such a good point in that, because like I work in, so I'm an IT guy, and it's the most like, I know there's some people at my work that watch this, so I'm going to choose my words wisely.
Careful, Nathan. Don't want to see your P45 on Monday.
It's not that I dislike it, but it is, anyone that works in that industry and says it's not dull, I question them, because it is very dull, right? So I completely get your point, because I'll sit at work and I'll go, right, I need to focus on the podcast, and I also need to focus on band shit, like when this is over, so I can hopefully eventually one day I never have to talk to someone about the fucking printer ever again. Like genuinely, that is in my head 24/7. It's like whenever I get a call, it's like it's just something stupid. Like, have you switched it off on again? Is it even fucking plugged in? I think. I need to focus on the music in the like, because if I have to do this until I'm 40, I'm gonna have a heart attack.
It's like you think IT Crowd is just a TV show, then you realise it's based on real life.
Yeah, exactly.
Show. Yeah. No, honestly, fuck that show. It has ruined working in IT for everyone, right? The first fucking thing, I'm not even kidding, I've heard this a million times. The first fucking thing when someone goes, right, what do you do for a living? And you go, I work in IT. You always go, do you ask him to turn it off and on again? And mate, first time you're like, yeah. The 90th time, you're just like, yeah, I do.
Yeah, I'll do. That's my job, mate.
Yeah. Fuck it. That show has ruined working in IT. Like, that's the one thing that you always get, and it's like, you know what? Fuck that show. If it never existed, my life would be so much easier, because then no one would know. No one would even be like, hey, did you ask him to turn it off on again? They'd be like, I don't really know what you're doing that, so I'm not going to ask any questions and just move on with the conversation.
You're gonna finish this interview, and you're gonna turn off your computer, and you're gonna go into this room. I can see a door behind you, and I bet it's just got millions of the IT Crowd box sets, and you're just gonna punch until there's just dust all over the floor.
Mate,
muffled scream coming from the other room.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even an exaggeration. I used to be a fan of the show before I started working in IT. I fucking love that show. I hate it now. Like, honestly, it's because it's the default answer that anyone gives you, and you're just like, haha, funny. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you want me to say, like, to that?
All right, lads, I got one last question for you. If the whole band was in a zombie apocalypse, which member would you least be reliant on?
It's the easiest question.
And ever. Why?
Jasper, you go first.
Okay. I'm gonna be least reliant on Jude, because he played one song and dislocated a knee. So in a zombie apocalypse, I don't think it's taken. Basically, if there's a set of stairs, this guy's kind of fucked. So I don't think he's lasting super long. That said, he has got the van, so maybe you could sort of use that as a defense thing. I think personally, because Jude lost a battle physically to him and a riff, I'd say that he probably would be the first one to die in a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, his chances aren't looking great, to be honest. Who would be the most reliant?
I think Jasper. I reckon because you'd just be on top of things, I reckon. Like, just
I'll get my spreadsheet out, my zombie apocalypse file. Let me find this down here. Yeah. I mean, and also I
feel
like
safe when Microsoft Excel is out.
Yeah, yeah, man. You know, it's what they always
I
say. Like,
struggle with that.
yeah, you watch any zombie apocalypse movie, and there's always the first three things that happen is there's the outbreak of zombies, everyone dies, and then someone gets out the Excel spreadsheet, and the entire thing's fixed. So
Yeah,
I'll crack open the laptop, get Excel out, get my spreadsheet on how to deal with a zombie apocalypse. And I think we'll all be cushy, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Tagline: this is why people die, because they don't have Excel.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
Saving lives. No, well, listen, guys, thank you so much for coming on. It's been great chatting with you. I can't wait to hear the EP, and I hope on your tour you'll be coming up to Leeds, maybe. No?
We're going to be pretty close. We're in Sheffield on the 24th. We were actually trying to get a Leeds status between Leeds and Sheffield, but Sheffield came through. But mate, if you guys want to head to any of the dates, hit me up and we'll get something sorted. And if you guys want to hear the EP early as well, just give me a shout and I'll shoot a link over or something.
Love to.
I've got the power to do that, man. I've got the links set up, bro. I'm organised. I've got them in an Excel spreadsheet as well with all the different fucking roofs in it too.
Oh, that tell me with a good time. Oh no, yeah, honestly can't wait. I love to see how driven you guys are, and I think that's like such an important factor, not in just being a band for life. Like, you know, you guys stay hungry, and I think that's going to drive you to a lot of good places. Yeah, can't wait, and yeah, definitely send over that link. Me and Nathan will be excited to listen.
Thank you for having us, guys. It's been a pleasure.
thanks for having us.
I did a lot of listening to the podcast before we came on, and it's sick, man. So glad to be on it. Thanks for having us.
No worries, man. Thank you for coming on. It's been a fun one.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, take care. Thank you.
Nice one. Cheers.